3 knife-related incidents in the hours before the attack.
Males with nothing to do and surplus energy cannot bode well, I suspect.
People wouldn't undertake the journey that they have done without a very valid reason.
Quite worrying that we don't know who's coming in.
Residents in Crowborough in East Sussex react to plans for illegal migrants to be housed in old army barracks in the town. And today we're in Inverness, where another former army camp will be used.
Yeah, more than 10,000 people have now signed a petition asking the Home Office to reconsider using Cameron Barracks to house 300 asylum seekers. We'll be speaking to people in Inverness all through the day.
And Tommy Robinson is in court this morning accused of a terror offence over refusing to give police access to his phone. We'll bring you the verdict.
Well, that's the annual John Lewis Christmas advert, which has been released this morning, and we'll bring you the full clip soon. Now, Andrew, obviously the big news this morning is the Rachel Reeves speech, but we mustn't forget this incredible revelation that the BBC doctored a clip of Donald Trump to make it look like he was inciting the Capitol Hill riots when he did nothing of the sort.
And it's in their flagship Panorama programme, and the BBC have gone to ground. The chairman of the BBC is refusing to talk about it, and we only know because this was leaked to the Daily Telegraph newspaper.
And of course they've set themselves up as fighting disinformation, as they call it, and they've been found to be the purveyors of disinformation. But also people are a bit wary of what they see online. They know it might not be true or verified, but people absolutely expect truth from the BBC.
And remember, the BBC have set up that department called the Verified Department, and next year the licence fee is rising to around £181. Miriam, is it any wonder so many people now are refusing to pay? Somebody came up to a charity lunch the other day and said, by the way, I love GB News, I'm not paying my BBC licence. And I said, I'm not encouraging you to do that. I'm not encouraging
Making that very clear.
But keep watching GB News.
Well, it's going to be so interesting what happens over the next decade or so, because lots of young people are not watching the BBC. They don't watch any linear TV. They get news from social media. So what will be the point of that kind of programming in a few years' time? Well, anyway, do let us know what you think about that and all the other topics today by visiting
gbnews.com/you'll say. But first, your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. A quick recap on everything you've just heard. Rachel Reeves says her upcoming budget will be built on fairness and opportunity, but the public finances stretch. Speculation is growing over possible tax rises. The Chancellor has vowed to make the necessary choices for economic stability, as the Prime Minister admits tough but fair decisions lie ahead. The BBC has been accused of doctoring a Donald Trump speech to make it look like he encouraged the Capitol riot. A leaked memo claims a Panorama episode completely misled viewers. The broadcaster insists it doesn't comment on leaks but takes feedback seriously. Government plans to move asylum seekers out of hotels and into barracks have hit a wall after Cameron Barracks in Inverness was deemed unsafe due to asbestos. Work's now delayed until January despite a November deadline to end the use of hotels. Sir Keir Starmer says the state failed the victims of Hillsborough to an almost inhuman level as he unveils a new law forcing public officials to tell the truth after disasters. The Hillsborough law will make it a crime to cover up facts in future tragedies. Tommy Robinson will learn today if he's guilty of a terror offence. He is just arriving in court, as you can see there on screen, after refusing to give police the PIN to his phone during a border stop. The former EDL leader could face 3 months in jail if convicted. We'll bring you the very latest from outside court today. And the Prince of Wales has launched a new initiative in Brazil to protect those defending in the Amazon. William hosts his Earthshot Prize in Rio tomorrow before joining world leaders at the COP30 summit. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good morning and welcome to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
extraordinary for a Chancellor of the Exchequer, Miriam. In all the years I've been doing this job, I remember Gordon Brown would make a speech probably about 3 weeks before the budget. He'd probably do it about 11 o'clock in the morning, a routine speech. He might do it at an economic conference and he'd be talking about the economy generally. But to bring everybody into the Downing Street, 8:10, speaking to the very important breakfast television, we thought was going to be a significant moment. She was going to shed light on are they going to break the manifesto? Are they going to raise taxes? It was 20 minutes of technical, boring waffle.
And like you say, 8 o'clock in the morning, it's designed to set the news agenda for the rest of the day. Yeah. But what was the news? She spent quite a lot of time setting the scene for why the economy is in a bad state, talking about the national debt and Brexit and inflation.
Ill-prepared for the pandemic. Which country was prepared for the pandemic?
And I was waiting then for her, well, this is the solution. But the only indication she really gave of any change of plan or departure from the manifesto was saying that everybody is going to have to pay their fair share rather than just rich people, which has been the
But even that's infuriating, because that takes people like you and me and people who've been doing this job a long time to interpret what that means. People just listening on the radio think, what does that mean? They won't think what she means by that is income tax is going up because most people pay income tax. That's what she means. And that is a clear breach of the manifesto, which should be in the fiction section of every library in this country, because they lied about national insurance. That went up on working employers. And she's clearly going to ask again. Listen, let's have a listen to Rachel, see if you agree with us.
When I was appointed Chancellor, people put their faith in me to take our country forward, not to be swayed by political convenience, not to always do what is popular, but to do what is right. At the budget, I will continue to deliver on the priorities of the British people, cutting NHS waiting lists, cutting the national debt, and cutting the cost of living.
The thing is, Andrew, one of the reasons that the cost of living has gone up is because she put that national insurance rise up on employers, as you were saying, which increased the cost of employing people, which obviously increased the costs of goods and products that people sell.
All the major retail bosses said this will add £1 billion to our costs, which means that we have to get that back. So that means the price of food went up. Yeah. Food inflation is now really high.
Exactly, and there were a few open goals that she missed as well, because she genuinely can blame previous governments for the amount of borrowing that we have, well, at least before last year, and for the way that money was linked in the way that government would guarantee it against inflation, which has pushed our interest payments up to some of the highest in the world. So there were some things that she could genuinely have blamed on previous governments. But she picked things like the pandemic, when, of course, Labour were urging the Conservatives to spend more and more and more. And we would be in much worse state had they been in charge.
Frankly, if Keir Starmer had his way, we'd still be locked down.
Exactly.
He wanted a longer lockdown. Let's talk to Chris Hope, our political editor, who had the misfortune to have to sit through that dirge of a speech this morning, and then the questions afterwards. Chris, talk about a wasted opportunity. It was like great expectations and none were fulfilled.
You're making all the right points there, Andrew and Miriam. I mean, she cleared the schedules 8 till 9 on Breakfast TV, the highest rated show at GBNews, just for example, and gave this kind of opaque speech. She basically gave the first third of what I think is the budget speech. She prepared the ground without any of the kind of punchline, what might go up. It's like going to the dentist and having the anaesthetist put you in the gas, knock you out, and then not take the teeth out for 3 weeks. And that's where we are, I think, with the Chancellor. We're waiting now. The speculation will be rife on what she means. The key quote, I think, from that long speech was, we all have to contribute to that effort of bringing down the cost of living, NHS waiting lists and national debt. Now, she did say she could be cutting capital spending, but she won't. She wants to go further on industrial strategy planning and cutting regulation. And that's the point here. She's made a choice, it seems, to break that manifesto pledge to increase either national insurance, VAT or income tax. Most people think it's income tax, maybe up by 2%. She may try and cut national insurance by 2%, so she can get away with saying that she's not going after working people, or most working people, probably under £45,000 a year. Already the reaction has come in. Sir Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, calls it an emergency speech from a Chancellor panicking about the speculation she's fuelled. But all she's done is confirm that taxes are going to be rising, and she claimed she had fixed the public finances last year. If that was true, she would be rolling the pitch for more tax rises. I don't remember a breakfast time press conference 22 days out from budget ever happening like this. Of course, it's a great shame that she wouldn't take a question from GB News, given we are Britain's #1 news channel for the 4th month running. But my hand was in the air. We asked for a question, but sadly, it wasn't granted.
Now, Chris, one of the things she did say to one of the questioners, obviously not you, was she criticised the Conservatives' plan to cut welfare spending by £23 billion a year. And she said that if that happened, public services would grind to a halt. And yet you only have to go back 2 years for our welfare bill to be more than £23 billion less than it is now. Do you think there's now no hope at all of any kind of welfare reform under this government?
The lack of ambition on welfare is startling compared to where the other parties are. It's a choice they've made here. They didn't go ahead with the £5 billion cut to welfare in the summer. They've got Stephen Timms, who's a respected former welfare minister. He's reviewing it now. He'll report back at the budget next year in November 2026, and any changes he says won't come into effect until 2027, a long way from where we are now. She does say she wants to tackle the welfare crisis. Why is that 1 in 8 young people are not employed and maybe on benefits, she says. But where's the evidence of this? I mean, I think her big thing, it clearly, is bringing down the cost of borrowing. What the markets want to see is a treasury, the building behind me, in some form of control over spending. Well, they haven't seen that yet. All we're seeing is big hints about tax increases. But all it was hints. We expected more, frankly, from this moment, that bringing all the journalists into number 9 Downing Street, the big speech. What was there? It was pitch rolling, frankly, for something difficult to happen in 22 days' time. I don't see what the point of it was, frankly.
Point, Chris, I was just going to say it is unprecedented. I don't recall it ever happening before. It was meant to, I thought it was going to be some great state-of-the-art announcement from her. She was rattled in the questions. She must have known those questions were coming. What was it supposed to achieve? Because all it's done is fuel even more lurid speculation about what happens on November the 26th.
I don't know. I mean, it's not fair to say it was an emergency speech, as the Tories say, because we saw it was on her schedule to prepare for the speech on this day, on Tuesday, last Wednesday, when her schedule was photographed as she left one of the buildings behind me. So we knew it was planned. I mean, for me, as I say, it was the first third of a budget speech without the actual denouement, what's going to go up, what's going to go down. I think she's trying to prepare the ground for what's coming next to avoid maybe spooking the markets. They're very worried clearly about the cost of servicing that national debt. She said it was trillions of pounds now, 2.9 trillion, I think, from memory, a big number, and we have to try and deal with that. But I think she's making choices there, and I don't understand. The question to ask her was, do you regret going to that election last year with that pledge not to cut VAT, income tax or national insurance? I mean, all I was going to say, frankly, is the time that GB News viewers cancel the Christmas turkey, but sadly, she wouldn't call me.
Well, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. And we've just seen Larry the cat behind you, enjoying the fresh air. Perhaps he's worried about the cost of
I imagine Larry the cat fled when halfway through that speech, because that's what most people in the room want.
I think he's worried about the cost of cat food. Will it go up?
Let's talk, Chris, thanks to us. Let's talk to the economist Andrew Lillico, who's seen many chances come and go. Andrew Lillico, are you as baffled as we are? We do not understand what that was supposed to achieve.
Well, it seems that being chancellor is easy as ABM, anyone but me. I mean, it seemed like she was suggesting that whatever she was going to have to do next, controlling debt and the deficit, very high deficit, we have 5% GDP. It's not going to come down to the 4% that she wanted this year. It appears that that's nothing to do with her having raised spending by £70 billion last year. It's all austerity at my homework, along with Liz Truss, Brexit and the pandemic somehow. In terms of any content that she made, I guess she was speaking to two kinds of audiences. She was trying to suggest to Labour MPs who might be agitating for more spending and certainly have been against spending cuts that it's necessary to, if you were to allow spending to go any higher and the deficit to go further, then that would just be self-destroying, because it would lead to so much extra debt repayments that you wouldn't actually be able to raise the spending at all. And on the side of the voters who are going to end up with higher taxes, she was trying to suggest it wasn't her fault. I would have thought, in terms of signals, there is actually something there. She was saying that getting down inflation was one of her priorities, and I think that that's a signal that she means she doesn't want to raise taxes on business or on expenditure, things like VAT, because business taxes will raise costs, so that would be inflationary. VAT rises would raise prices directly, so that would be inflationary. She's saying she can't do those, so that's part of her excuse for what I suspect is going to be an income tax rise.
Now, Andrew, one of the things that people are speculating about is economic growth, and she failed to mention that as one of her key priorities at the start of the speech. She did say that the government was investing in things like free school meals. What is the relationship between free school meals and economic growth?
Well, there's no very direct relationship between those. I mean, you could say some kind of obscure long-term effect. Of course, it's better for the long-term performance of the economy if people are better educated. So I guess, to be generous, there's that sort of a thought. But it's rather many steps in a chain to get to there. She wants to suggest that one key reason why we've had slow growth over the past 15 or 17 years since the global financial crisis is because governments cut investment. That's her suggestion. So she's trying to say, I can't respond to the problems that we have with the deficit now by cutting investment, because that's going to damage growth. That's what she says people did in the past. She doesn't want to repeat that. But there are so many things that they could have been trying to do on the side of growth that they really haven't attempted at all. They want to focus, they want to talk a good game on having a little bit of extra planning effects. And that's not nothing, but they're not really following through with that very much.
Indeed.
And the idea that the only way of increasing growth if you're a left-wing government is by raising public spending more and more and more, it's just completely
Andrew, I'm so sorry, we are going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us this morning, economist Andrew Lillico. Well, please do keep on joining us after the break, because the BBC is supposed to be the home of impartial journalism, but they've been found to have doctored a Donald Trump speech. But up next, we're off to Inverness to see how people there feel about having migrants being housed in an old army barracks. But first of all, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're looking to escape the autumnal weather in the UK, well, there is also some unsettled weather through the Mediterranean. The focus in the east and the west at the moment, with Greece seeing some heavy showers, particularly towards the south, and even some longer spells of rain. Italy, though, faring well for sunny skies, likewise for the south of France. But we do have this wet and windy weather sweeping through Portugal on Wednesday, into Spain, and then clearing into eastern Spain during Thursday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Yeah, well, obviously you can't, on the one hand, say that the government is forcing everybody to go to work an hour early and then say people are welcome to go to work an hour earlier if they want to. As you say, Tom, there's a collective action problem. You know, people go to work at certain times, they have office hours, and those office hours are based on what everybody believes the time to be. So the point here is not that anybody believes that daylight savings actually creates more daylight. It just creates a daylight when people can actually enjoy it, and people tend to want their leisure and recreation after work rather than before work. It also has daylight saving time various health and well-being benefits. The reason that it was introduced during the First World War is, in fact, it does allow a certain amount of extra efficiency. You need less electricity, for example, in the evenings. You don't need to have the floodlights on during an afternoon football game and all the rest of it. So for health and well-being reasons, I'm very much in favour not just of keeping daylight saving time, but having it all year round.
But also, in terms of safety for women as well, it's better for us to be walking home if it's lighter and things like that. You know what I mean? When it's really dark, it does get dark quite quickly towards the winter months. There's no problem. I mean, what is the real reason as to why this would be a problem, Peter, for the clocks to change anyway? I mean, that's fine, isn't it? We all get used to it, and then it comes back when the light sort of changes.
Well, collective madness is always a problem. When people do something stupid in very large numbers, it's worrying. I mean, I find it amusing now because it's obviously impossible to persuade people that this thing is as crazy as it is. You say things like, it's better for women to be able to walk down the street when it's light. Well, no doubt it is, but the street will remain as light or as dark as it would have been before, whether you fiddle with the clocks or whether you don't.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 7 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Just a week since the government announced plans to move asylum seekers out of hotels and into former military barracks. But guess what? Those plans are facing major setbacks.
Yes, the Cameron barracks in Inverness are set to house around 300 people, but they've been deemed unsafe, with asbestos now being removed from the site.
You couldn't make this up, could you? Let's talk to GB News Scotland reporter Tony Maguire, who is there for us. Tony, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Well, you know, it's hard to imagine that a saga such as this could have unfolded in such a short space of time. Just a week ago, Inverness found out that the Cameron barracks was going to be home to 300 asylum seekers. And the plan was originally to move them in by beginning the end of November, and then a phased rollout over the next 12 months. Well, no, they discovered asbestos and other hazardous materials here, and in fact 1.3 million is being set aside for, as well as dealing with the hazardous materials, to upgrade the heating. Very, very cold barracks inside here, I am told, and then also a redecoration job. But all of this isn't even quite enough for that delay. Those works aren't going to take place until January, and of course, but locals here are already really highly concerned. You know, this was very much dropped on them, they tell me, last week, and in fact already 10,000 people have already signed a petition asking the Home Office to reconsider their plan. Now, this was very much pitched by the Home Office as out of the way in the outskirts of Inverness, but I can tell you here that it's surrounded by 3 different residential zones with schools on either side, and the 300 men that will be homed here will not be detained on site. They will be able to freely roam. Understandably, that has some people's feathers ruffled. Now, I spoke to the MSP for the local area, Fergus Ewing, about those concerns, and here's a little bit of our chat from yesterday.
The reaction in Inverness has been one of anger, concern, and I can go through the concerns because this is, I guess, the meat of it. The impact on the health service, which is, well, straining at the leash. Policing is another issue because there are relatively few police on the beat in Inverness even on weekends. You know, if there are problems which arise, they could be quite difficult to handle. I honestly believe that my constituents and myself are not racist. You know, they're just not.
Now, Fergus Ewing tapped into something quite important there. We've seen over the last few months that any resistance to immigration here in Scotland has been met with calls of fascist and Nazi and far right. But you know, this moment here is really a bit of a wake-up call, some hope, for our politicians to see that we need to really mature our conversation around immigration up here, because as we have seen unfold obviously south in the border closer to London, this is potentially only going to get worse.
Tony Maguire, thank you so much for that report, and we will be returning to you later in the show. I mean, Andrew, nobody is going to want facilities like this near them, but they're going to have to be somewhere if hotels are going to be closed.
I know, but don't they do any due diligence? Did they not check out that building? Remember when the Tories put the migrants on the...
Bibby Stockholm bar.
They had to take them off after a week.
Yes,
Wasn't it asbestos?
Probably was.
Same old problem. And this now gives them till January to organise protests, and that's when the work starts.
That's a long time. Well, don't go anywhere, because we've heard from Reform UK and Labour on their economic plans, but up next is Tory leader Kemi Badenoch. Don't miss it.
Bet you can't wait. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M77 northbound at Junction 1, Lane 1 is blocked due to a road traffic incident. The A48M westbound has congestion between Castleton and St Mellons. The A36 southbound is closed after a collision between the junctions with the A27 and A3090. The M60 clockwise has congestion between Junction 24 and Junction 1 in Stockport. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast is experiencing major disruptions between Carlisle and Preston. And Caledonian Sleeper has no service between Edinburgh, Glasgow Central and London Euston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. And we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 4th of November. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
We're calling it the nightmare before Christmas.
If we are to build the future of Britain together, we will all have to contribute to that effort. Each of us must do our bit for the security of our country and the brightness of its future.
Well, that was the Chancellor Rachel Reeves at Downing Street this morning as she indicated she's ready to break her manifesto pledge and raise taxes in the budget this month. She also snubbed GB News while taking questions from the media.
Tory leader Kemi Badenoch's getting in on the act. She's setting out her economic vision for Britain shortly. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, he's dropped his plans to cut taxes by up to £90 billion.
Substantial tax cuts, given the dire state of debt and our finances, are not realistic at this current moment in time.
And a scandal at the BBC. The broadcaster doctored a Donald Trump speech by making him appear to encourage the Capitol Hill riots in 2021. Take a listen.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women
Shocking. Missed opportunities. Police are investigating whether the Huntingdon train stabbing suspect was involved in 3 knife-related incidents in just hours before the attack.
And there have been calls for further investigation and referrals to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. I'll have all the latest shortly.
And Tommy Robinson is in court this morning, accused of a terror offence over refusing to give police access to his phone. We'll bring you the verdict.
Males with nothing to do and surplus energy cannot bode well, I suspect.
People wouldn't undertake the journey that they have done without a very valid reason.
Quite worrying that we don't know who's coming in.
That's residents in Crowborough and East Sussex reacting to plans for illegal migrants to be housed in old army barracks in the town. Today we're in Inverness, where another former army camp will be used, or will it?
Well, Andrew, so far we've had Nigel Farage on his economic vision yesterday. We've had Rachel Reeves this morning at 8 o'clock setting out, well, potentially her economic vision, although she didn't say much specific.
Boring, nothing I hadn't heard before.
No, indeed. Next up, we've got Kemi Badenoch.
And this is partly because the Chancellor telegraphed what she was doing, because she left a meeting in number 10 or number 11 and she had a schedule on show, so everybody knew she was making a major speech today. So Farage was got in yesterday, it's Kemi Badenoch today. But I do have to say, a wasted opportunity for the Chancellor, because it was boring, technical, dull. She didn't tell us anything.
Yeah, and she was laying out the pitch, probably for tax hikes, that's what we think.
But not very well.
Yes, and saying things that have been said many times before about Brexit and inflation, which, you know, some of them may be true, but didn't really give us a clue as to why she thinks that breaking the manifesto commitment is necessary, when actually they could cut spending.
And Badenoch won't be talking about tax cuts, she's going to be talking about fiscal responsibility, I imagine, and cutting the benefits bill.
Yeah, getting people back to work, which is a little bit like what Farage was saying yesterday. Anyway, we will be covering that live. So let us know what you think about everything we've spoken about so far and what's to come by visiting
gbnews.com/you'll say. But first, here's the headlines with Sam Francis.
Andrew, Miriam, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Just coming up to 5 minutes past 10. Rachel Reeves has refused to rule out tax rises, saying she'll make the necessary choices in her budget later this month. It comes amid a warning from the Resolution Foundation that tax rises are, they say, inevitable. The OBR is also expected to downgrade its productivity forecast, leaving a £20 billion gap in the public finances. The Prime Minister's spokesman says the government will take tough but fair decisions. But the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch is accusing Labour of giving up, and she'll be giving her own speech this morning, also expected to focus on the economy. Well, speaking from Downing Street this morning, the Chancellor said her statement on the 26th of November will focus on fairness and opportunity, but she did admit the world has thrown challenges our way.
Mine will be a budget for growth, with fairness at its heart, and a budget that supports businesses to create jobs and to innovate. As I take my decisions on both tax and spend, I will do what is necessary to protect families from high inflation and interest rates, to protect our public services from a return to austerity, and to ensure that the economy that we hand down to future generations is secure, with debt under control.
The BBC has been accused of doctoring a Donald Trump speech to make it appear he encouraged the Capitol Hill riot. In an internal memo seen by The Telegraph, it claims a Panorama episode broadcast a week before the US election completely misled viewers. It showed Mr. Trump urging supporters to fight like hell when he actually said to march peacefully and patriotically.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Well, The Telegraph says it will publish more allegations of the BBC's bias in its Gaza coverage and censorship on transgender issues. The BBC has since told GB News it doesn't comment on leaked documents, but that all feedback is, they say, taken seriously. In other news, government plans to move asylum seekers out of hotels and into military barracks could be derailed after one of the key sites was deemed unsafe to live in. Extensive work is now underway to remove asbestos from Cameron Barracks in Inverness, where 300 migrants were due to be relocated. The disused base is facing major renovation delays, with work there not expected to start now until January, despite ministers aiming to end the use of hotels by November. Sir Keir Starmer says the British state failed the victims of Hillsborough to an almost inhuman level. That's as he introduces a new law forcing public officials to tell the truth after disasters. The Prime Minister told MPs the 97 football fans who died at the 1989 FA Cup semi-final were unlawfully killed and bore no responsibility for what happened. The so-called Hillsborough law will make it a criminal offence for officials or contractors to cover up facts after major incidents. Sir Keir Starmer said the bill would help prevent future injustices like Hillsborough, Grenfell and the Post Office scandal, calling them a stain on modern history. Tommy Robinson will learn today whether he's guilty of a terror offence after he refused to give police the PIN to his phone during a border stop. The 42-year-old, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, was stopped at the Channel Tunnel while driving to Spain last July. Officers demanded access to his iPhone under anti-terror laws, but Robinson allegedly refused. Prosecutors say his behaviour raised suspicions. His lawyers, though, argue the stop was discriminatory. The former EDL leader faces up to 3 months in jail if convicted. That verdict will be handed down later today. Well, let's pull away from those stories and take you live now to Westminster, where the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, is giving her thoughts on the economy.
But listening to the Chancellor this morning, you would have thought that was all because of us. People have stopped working. Graduate jobs are down by a third since just last year when Labour came in. Young people are not working, and our high streets are closing down. It's time to get Britain working again. Everywhere you look, the people who keep this country going feel that they are being punished, not rewarded, for doing the right thing. Sole traders, family businesses, family farms. We see many people paying insane rates of marginal tax. 1 in 3 hospitality businesses are trading at below break-even. I had a roundtable with oil and gas businesses in May, and one of them told me that the windfall tax taxed 102% of their profits. Yes, you heard that right. Taxed at 102%. Britain has stopped working because for too many, it has stopped making sense to work. No one should be taxed at 102% of profits. I mean, I know nobody in Labour has run a business, but still. Far from solving this issue, Labour seem intent on making it worse. At best, they have given up. They are managing decline. It doesn't have to be like this. And I'm here to tell you how we can fix it, how we can get Britain working again. This morning, we saw the extraordinary spectacle of a Chancellor, just days before a budget, rushed into a panicked speech. We were told that this was the great moment when Labour would show they had a plan for growth. Instead, what we got was a masterclass in managed decline. A Chancellor claiming she was just going to set the context, but instead of clarity, business leaders are none the wiser, investors are confused, workers are anxious, because the truth is, Labour doesn't have a plan to get Britain working again. Yeah. The Chancellor's speech was one long waffle bomb. A laundry list of excuses. She blamed absolutely everybody else for her own choices, her own decisions, her own failures. She claims she will focus on the priorities of the British public. Whose priority is it to pay more tax? It is basic economics that if you tax something, you get less of it. Remember those graduates who aren't finding work? Some people are blaming AI. It's not AI's fault. You can draw a direct line between what Rachel Reeves did in the budget last year and the dire prospects that many of those graduates are facing now. She is the one who taxed their jobs and then destroyed them. When Labour made every business in the country pay more to employ someone, those firms had three choices: raise prices, cut jobs, or close. And the impact of all three of those choices is why growth has flatlined. What began as Labour's idea of fairness, to take from the unworthy private sector and give to the worthy unions, has made life harder for everyone, especially those doing the right thing. But we have a plan to fix this. But that plan means Rachel Reeves doing the exact opposite of what she has done so far. To get Britain working again, we need to scrap the windfall tax to get our oil and gas industry working, scrap the carbon tax, take up our cheap power plan to get our manufacturing industry working, scrap the family farms tax, scrap the family business tax to get our farming industry working again. That's what we would do. But most importantly, what we are going to do is get people off welfare and into work. What's happening right now with our welfare system is not just an economic scandal, it's a moral one. When we left office last year, after COVID, 2,000 people a day were being signed onto out-of-work sickness benefits. In just a year under Labour, that number has more than doubled to 5,000 new people each day signing off work. We have tried to help Labour fix this. When they started a bill to make savings on welfare, we offered them our votes in Parliament, but they didn't want them. They'd rather try their backbenchers instead. And what happened? They managed to pass legislation guaranteeing that the sickness benefits bill would rise to £100 billion a year. In fact, Labour backbenchers celebrated. Why? Because they are too scared and too weak to make difficult decisions. They kicked it into the long grass, set up the Timms review, which would try and find some welfare savings. And what did we hear? Last week, we heard the government has now quietly giving up on making any savings at all in this review. Labour believe that they're being compassionate. What is compassionate about writing off millions of people off for life, many of them young people? There will always be a small number of people who do need support. But right now, a generation of young people are being told that instead of challenges to overcome, they have disorders that mean they should never work. This isn't compassion. Even those who have been dealt an incredibly bad hand in life can do incredible things. They can own a home, they can start a family, they can run a business, and many do. But if sickness benefits pay more than the minimum wage, you can understand why someone who's lacking in confidence might not take the risk. Why even bother to get a job? We want to get these people working again. It will help them and it will help us. Not least because for too long we have relied on immigration to do the jobs Brits won't do. It's been damaging social cohesion. Instead of getting people into work, Rachel Reeves is going to put taxes up. And Reform's position is just more of the same. They are also addicted to welfare with their pledge to lift the two-child benefit cap. It is not sustainable and it is not serious. Only the Conservatives are committed to ensuring that we get on top of public spending, and only the Conservatives will fix our broken welfare system. We have already announced our plan to reduce eligibility for lower-level mental health issues, to make sure people coming to this country don't qualify for benefits, to limit mobility vehicles to people with serious disabilities. Our plan will save £23 billion by restricting access to benefits to those who need them most. And if Rachel Reeves had any sense, she would copy and paste every one of those ideas. We know she's good at cutting and pasting. But we will keep going. Our plan is just the beginning. Each young person not in employment, in education or training is costing the economy nearly £200,000. There are now 1 million of them under Labour. 1 million young people not in education, not in training, not working. Labour might have given up on them, but we haven't. We will get them working, and we will give them a £5,000 first jobs bonus when they do. Yeah. This isn't just about economic growth. It's also about fairness, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone in Britain says they want to live in a fair society. What does that actually mean? Labour talk about fairness in the language of Robin Hood. They think those who have taken from those who don't have. They talk about those with the broadest shoulders, never worrying about the limit of what those shoulders can bear. They talk about fairness for working people, but they can't define what a working person is. They think that what they're doing is righteous, but they're wrong. What they are doing is making everyone poorer. For me, fairness isn't about the government enforcing equal outcomes. I believe that rewards should match effort. If you get up and go to work, provide for yourself and your family, you should be better off than someone who doesn't. If you take a risk, leave the security of a job and start a business, if after hard years of graft it finally succeeds, then you should be rewarded for taking that risk. This simple contract, that effort and risk should lead to reward, is what makes society work. It is how progress is made. You might have seen the news last week that thousands of people on benefits are going to have their debts to energy companies paid off by adding an extra £5 to everyone else's energy bills. How unfair is this? Not only have Labour put your energy bill up by £300, they're going to make you pay extra for other people who cannot pay. We have a plan to get Britain working. In fact, we have many plans. At our party conference, I announced our cheap power plan to cut bills by £165 for the average family by backing British energy production. I noticed yesterday that Reform copied that announcement. It's nice to see other parties following our lead, but we're the only party with a plan to do it. The message that this government is sending couldn't be clearer. Don't bother doing the right thing. Don't bother living within your means, because the government won't. Don't bother putting money away to cover your bills. You'll just end up paying for those that don't. The budget is an opportunity for Rachel Reeves to fix this, to make savings and take the pressure off all of us. But this morning, what we saw is that she's given up trying. Instead, they're just going to wrap businesses in more red tape. Labour are so mistrusting of people, of business. They think you need a politician to check what everyone is doing, and that's the only way to stop anything bad from happening. But this is nonsense. The reality is that all their red tape stops good things from happening. Businesses get swamped in paperwork. They close down, or they don't even bother starting in the first place. Shops and restaurants don't get billed. Our high streets are boarded up. Chancellors can't rent out their own homes without breaking the law because they can't keep up with the red tape. Just look at their employment rights bill. The government has plugged its ears to the warnings of businesses across the country. We tried to work with Labour in the national interest. We offered constructive amendments. It is clear, quite clear, that this current bill is not fit for purpose. It needs a fundamental rethink and overhaul. It won't get Britain working. It will kill jobs. The only responsible action left is for Labour to shelve the bill in its entirety and start from scratch. What they should be doing at the budget is withdrawing the Employment Rights Bill altogether before it becomes the Unemployment Act. And I understand Keir Starmer's thinking. He thinks making it impossible to ever fire anyone is good news for workers, that it will protect them. It'll protect them from evil businesses. But actually what Labour don't realise is that these rules just mean people won't get hired in the first place, especially young people, especially disabled people, especially those currently on welfare. And that is why Conservatives will repeal all of the stupid measures in that bill. You cannot guarantee that everything is going to work out. You have to allow people to make mistakes, allow people to change their minds, take a risk if you ever want to get this country working again. I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, that risk aversion is killing us. The price of avoiding all failure is that we are losing all chance of success. This is the culture that Labour is creating, that you're better off spending your money than saving it, you're better off on welfare than in work, and if you do work, you're better off working for the government or the organisation that is taxing the business rather than the business itself. Just look at that definition of a working person they've been getting into knots about. It gets smaller and smaller every day. First, they got rid of farmers, then they got rid of business owners. Now, apparently, a working person is anyone earning less than £46,000. By the time they're finished, the only person left who counts as a working person will be someone on out-of-work benefits. Labour go on and on about fairness while creating the most unfair of economies. They talk about working people while making life harder and harder for people who actually work. And worst of all, they pretend that what they're doing is all necessary. They pretend that they don't have a choice. The reality is that they have given up trying to change anything. They have given up trying to get the government to live within its means, and they have given up on not raising tax. That's what Rachel Reeves was telling us this morning. And a government that refuses to live within its means while telling everyone else to tighten their belts isn't being fair. That government is being hypocritical. Getting the government to live within its means is not austerity, it is respect. It is respect for taxpayers who already give enough. It is respect for the small business that can't just pass on losses to someone else. And it is respect for the next generation who we want to inherit opportunity, not our liabilities. There is only one way out of this decline. We need to get Britain working again. And you do that by making it make sense to work. The £47 billion of savings we identified aren't random, and this isn't about paperclips in Whitehall, and they aren't cuts to hospitals or schools like Rachel was saying this morning. She clearly hasn't read our plans or looked at our record in office protecting schools, protecting the NHS, in the same way she didn't bother reading the rules on renting out a property. She needs to pay attention. So let me tell her what our £47 billion of savings is yet again. Those savings will come from money that is being paid for people to sit at home. Money that is going to those quangos that are wrapping businesses in red tape. It is money that is going on degrees that leave people with no skills and no opportunities. It is taxpayers' money that is making life worse, not better. With the money we save, we will do two things. Under our golden economic rule, at least half of the savings will always go to reducing the debt burden for our children and grandchildren, because we are the only party that has ever cared about fiscal responsibility. And with the rest of the savings, we are going to get Britain working. We are going to abolish stamp duty so that people who do the right thing, make sacrifices, save up, build something for their family, buy a home. And when they buy a home, painters, decorators, all those people who get out of bed in the morning will have more work. People who run furniture shops and DIY shops will have more customers. Our high streets will be busier. And to help the high street even further, we are going to abolish their business rates. Business rates for pubs, cafes, shops. Instead of putting their bills up, we are going to cut them. We are going to make life easier for all of those people, because what they do is work hard. And their work makes people's lives better. Those people deserve our support. And when they have more work, that will need more people to do that work, people with skills. So we are going to double that apprenticeship budget, making sure businesses have the skills they need, rewarding young people who want to get on in life, and giving thousands of people a path off welfare and into work. That will reverse Labour's tax doom loop. When you tax something, you get less of it. That's why we want lower taxes on jobs. We want more jobs. We want lower taxes on businesses. We want more businesses. We need lower taxes on taking a risk, lower taxes on buying a home, lower taxes on having a family. And we will get Britain working by rebuilding the contract between government and citizen. Those of us who are adults have a duty to act like it. Fiscal responsibility is not cruelty, it is care in its truest form. The kind that thinks beyond an election cycle, the kind that refuses to harm the next generation for the convenience of this one. Fairness is about effort matching reward. It's about people who work hard doing better than those that don't. Fairness is about equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. It is about taking responsibility and being trusted to get on with your life. And fairness is about living within our means so our children don't pay for our debts. That is the fairness that we are going to rebuild our country on, and we have a plan to do it. Cut government waste, cut welfare, get people into work, abolish stamp duty, cut business rates, slash red tape, create jobs, double apprenticeships, deliver cheaper power, because when work pays, when business grows, and when government lives within its means, Britain works. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. And now I'm going to take questions from the media. Can we start with Carl Dinnan from ITV?
Thank you, Kemi. One of the things the Chancellor said this morning was that productivity in this country is worse than expected. Leaving aside whether or not that should really have come as much of a surprise, as the leader of the party that has been in power for 14 out of the last 15 years, how much responsibility does the Conservative Party bear for the poor productivity in our economy?
Well, it was very interesting that she mentioned productivity without looking at all of the things that Labour has done to reduce productivity. We saw the biggest drop in productivity after a global pandemic, of course. We paid lots of people to stay at home. It cost us a lot of money. We're still recovering from that. And I won't shy away from what we did during the pandemic. I'm pleased that it was Conservatives, not Labour, because they were asking us to spend even more, keep people out of work longer. That would have made the productivity situation worse. But we do know that productivity in the public sector is what has been dragging things down. We need to tackle the lack of productivity in the public sector. That's why we've talked about making savings within the civil service, about £8 billion of savings. A lot of this red tape, which I'm talking about, will deal with the productivity, scrapping the red tape will deal with the productivity problem. So I have a plan for the future. The current government doesn't have a plan. My predecessors can answer for what they did on productivity. I'm talking about what I'm going to do to get this country working again. Thank you, Carl. Catherine from GB News. Catherine Foster.
Thank you, Catherine Forster, GB News. The Chancellor flung a lot of blame around this morning, a lot of it at the Tories for 14 years. She said that they put political expediency above the national interest. Does she have a point? Because the economy really since the financial crisis has not done well, has it? And also on the BBC, the news that in an internal memo accused the BBC of completely misleading the public over the Trump footage on January the 6th. What action do you think should be taken about that? What would you do if you were in government at the moment? Thank you.
I'm afraid I haven't seen the memo about the BBC, so I can't really answer that question. But it is utterly ridiculous to see Rachel Reeves stand there blaming everybody except herself. Unemployment has risen every single month since Labour came into office. But she wants to blame me for that? That's crazy. She should look at her jobs tax. Look at what she did in the budget. We knew that they were making a mess, and we saw them cheering about how they were going to have a £40 billion tax rate. They thought that they were doing a good thing because no one in that cabinet has ever run a proper business. If we're going to get our country working again, we need people who understand the economy, people who've worked in the private sector, people who've run a business. Rachel Reeves is going to come out playing bingo with all of the lines that she has been practicing for the last few years. That is because she doesn't have a plan. If she had a plan, she'd be talking about what she was going to do other than tax rises. All she is doing is blaming everyone else. This is a Chancellor who's back against the wall. She doesn't know what she's doing. We need to get Britain working again. She should copy and paste our plan. That's the best that she can do right now. So she should take our ideas and run with them at the budget at the end of this month.
Well, that was Kemi Badenoch making a flagship speech on the economy, what the Conservatives would do if they were in power.
I'm staggered that she is not aware of what went on at the BBC when it's the front page of the Daily Telegraph. It's been dominating the airwaves before the Chancellor's speech, that the BBC Panorama tampered with Donald Trump's speech to imply he exhorted his supporters to take up arms and commit acts of violence at Capitol Hill. And that it's an extraordinary fact that she doesn't know about it.
Well, I wonder if she misunderstood the question, because Catherine asked, have you seen the memo?
Right.
She may not have realised that the story was based on a memo. I don't know. I'm sure I've seen some senior members of the Conservative Party comment on this on X. I will have a look for that in a minute. So it does seem extraordinary. She might not know about that. But, of course, her main comments were about the economy. The theme was that we need to get Britain working again, that we need to be fair to future generations by bringing down the national debt.
Quite, and that's good. And she's saying, doesn't she, that with the Tory government would mean they're not going to pay billions of pounds for people to stay at home. 5,000 a day signing on.
Absolutely.
5,000 a day.
It was already 2,000 a day at the last election, which seems like an extraordinary large number signing on or signing off work, but now 5,000 a day. And she linked the difficulties that a lot of graduates are finding in finding jobs to Rachel Reeves' decision to put up national insurance for employers last year, saying that now whatever you tax, you get less of. If you tax work, you get fewer jobs.
Exactly. We've got a panel with us. GP and medical writer Dr. Rennie Hunterkamp, Nigel Nelson, our senior political commentator. Let's go to you first. I mean, we'll talk about Reeves a bit later, I think.
OK.
On Badenoch, anything new?
No, it was very much a summary of her party conference speech.
Yeah.
So it was more or less on those lines. When she says she has a plan, the plan seems to be all over the place. I mean, the various things were get rid of stamp duty, business taxes, windfall, carbon taxes, farms tax.
Well, agree with all of that.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but the whole thing is she talks about the more you tax, the less you get. You still need the taxes in the first place to actually keep the place going.
She's going to cut spending on benefits that your lot thinks fine.
OK, let's see if that happens. I mean, I think that these sort of wild promises about, we can get all our money from benefit spending is actually a nonsense. I mean, we've had, this is the third now economic speech we've had in, less than 2 days. So we start with Nigel Farage, who talks about the same thing. We then move to Rachel Reeves trying to soften us all up for her budget. And now we've got Kemi. But nothing there said anything, as far as I could see, that would work. She talks about 1 million young people being out of work and promises 5,000 for if they start a job. £5 billion? Where does that come from? So at the moment, that none of those things, it's the luxury of opposition. You can say what you like, but you don't have to carry it out.
Renee, one of the things she did say was that effort should be linked to reward again, and that's really what the welfare system as we have now has underlined. You can earn more money, or I say earn, you can get more money if you are on the top rates of benefits than if you're on a minimum wage job.
Yeah, and actually that's the very point that I wrote down and circled here, that basically the only thing that Labour are not saying is that we are rapidly moving towards a society where those who work are supporting a growing and ballooning number of those who just don't. And that's not what a welfare system is for. Of course we need a welfare system, but it needs to be for the very few who can't physically work. And there are those people, of course they are, and they should be looked after. But I would argue that most people, regardless of how unwell they might feel with their aching back and their sore knees, can do a job and should do a job. It's not my responsibility or yours to look after those people. It's my responsibility to look after those who absolutely physically can't work.
6.5 million now.
Yeah.
Came in with these benefits. 6.5 million.
It's a Ponzi scheme, and all Ponzi schemes collapse, and this one is close to it now, because people who do work are starting to feel that there actually isn't the payback that there used to be. Yeah. When I came out of school, there was no doubt in my mind that the next step was to fend for myself via a job.
The politics of this are really interesting, Nigel, aren't they? Because for some weeks now, some months, the Conservatives have been trying to paint reform as socialists, left-wing on the economy, fiscally irresponsible. But Nigel Farage really drew a line under that yesterday by saying that they would not be seeking to cut taxes until spending had been brought under control. And actually, speaking for a long time about the national debt, the importance of having budgets that are balanced. And yet today, Badenoch's still claiming that Farage wants to bring back scrap the two-child benefits limit, which of course is not exactly what he said. He said that he would remove it only for...
He said he misunderstood it.
British couples who are working, which is obviously very different to just scrapping...
Well, it would, because there'd be a very tiny number. I mean, you'd have to have 2 couples on universal credit...
and who are working.
Yeah, and who are working.
And who are British.
Yes. So actually you're talking about a very small number of people.
Exactly. So, but the Conservatives' fortunes really do depend on people not trusting Farage and the economy.
Yeah, but I think this is all about trust in politicians as a whole. I mean, if Rachel Reeves breaks her manifesto commitment, that's going to knock... Well, yes, I am using the word if, because we don't know it's actually not a scare tactic. It may well be she won't do it. I think she will, and I think she ought to.
I would say she already broke it last year when she decided that national insurance on employers was not affecting working people. She's already broken it, Nigel.
Well, I would disagree with you on that, because it was employee national insurance that she was talking about.
Not working people?
But sorry,
why is an employer who perhaps employs 8 people, why is that person, male or female, not a working person?
Well, I mean, in fact, Kemi just gave the definition.
No, I want you to answer it.
Well, OK, I'm giving you the answer. The definition of a working person. Kemi just actually mentioned it. It's the Treasury's definition of a working person. That's 2/3 of workers on the bottom level of income, which means
losing the room now.
which means earning less than £46,000 a year.
So they didn't give that definition before they used it in their manifesto to get a few people to vote for them, because let's face it, this was a very low turnout election.
Yeah, it was.
They didn't use that, but then they introduced it afterwards, and they will change it. That 46 will become 36 and so on.
Yeah.
It's gradually changing, Nigel. There was no definition of a working person that anybody in this room understands as a working person. I am a working person. I get up every day, I go to work, I pay tax, I'm a working person. Whether I earn 46,000, which actually I don't much of, but whether I do or not, I'm still a working person. And the person earning 100,000 and paying tax is also a working person.
Well, you just asked me for a definition of a working person as is understood at the moment by the government, and that was it.
No, it's not
Your definition is, Nigel, what can people watching and listening think is a working person? That's anybody who gets up and does a job.
Yeah, OK. I mean, you can argue it whichever way you like. Working person was actually a politer way of talking about working class, which is what Labour used to talk about.
What they meant to say.
So that's what... But they have come up with a definition. That's what you asked for. That's what I gave you.
This whole spectacle, I'm talking about all 3 speeches we've seen now from Farage, from Badenoch and from Reeves this morning, just show how far we have swallowed socialism in the last 60, 70 years, that we now think that it's people's rights for the state to provide an income. It's people's right for the state to provide healthcare, and it's people's right for the state to redistribute wealth from top to bottom. Now, 100 years ago, nobody would have accepted that. They would have said, well, actually, it's a family's job to provide for each other, and charities in the church if that falls down. And the government's job is basically make sure we've got an army, make sure we've got some schools, make sure we've got some roads, and keep us safe from foreign states. Thank you very much. I mean, all the parties now believe that the state should be enormous, essentially.
Yes, and can I give you an example of something I did as an exercise yesterday? I went onto my local authority where it says, do you need extra help with the cost of living? And I put in all of my...
Yes, please.
Yeah, you can do that on your local authority. Everybody at home should do this.
Sorting out potholes and collecting bins and...
So I put in my circumstances as they currently are. Yeah. The only thing I admitted was my savings, because I don't have a pension. Yeah. So I'm saving for my pension. You'll be pleased to know, Miriam. And I put in everything by my savings, and it told me at the end of it that I would qualify for an extra £470 a month help.
No.
Would you like to apply?
Good Lord.
This is what's wrong with the state.
And that's a local council.
That was my local authority.
That is not the job of a local town hall.
I know.
Well, I mean, I don't know what happened exactly in Doc's case there, but the idea about, say, PIP payments, which is in fact what Kemi Badenoch was talking about, surely the whole point of those payments is for people who need them. I agree that the people who don't need them shouldn't have them.
And there's a lot of people who don't need them who are getting them.
The way to actually sort that out, in fact, that's one bit from what Nigel Farage said yesterday, which I agreed with, is you do face-to-face assessments.
Yes.
You don't try and do it down the line.
But Labour had a chance to reform PIP payments, and your mates in the Commons backed off.
Well, yeah, but
they ducked it.
Well, quite right, because the reason that was right was it wasn't actually about reforming PIP. It was about saving £5 billion.
What's wrong with that?
So, well, because the first thing you have to do is you have to look at the payments, do a proper review of the payments before you can decide where you save money.
The problem is, Nigel, I mean, you're absolutely right, and all they were looking at is freezing payments. It wasn't reform.
It wasn't even saving.
But it's become an indicator of what Labour-backed ventures are and aren't willing to do, hasn't it? And that's the consequence.
The review and reform should come first. Well, and then you look at what you might be able to save on the basis of that.
But in their review that they're doing right now, they have already laid down the line that there are no savings to be made.
Well, Stephen Timms is saying that so far he's not found any savings.
He is. He's the former welfare minister who's doing a major review.
Very well respected MP across both sides.
But I don't think his report will be ready.
But his hands will be tied.
But his report won't be ready much before the end of this Parliament.
Well, I mean,
that's the idea.
It should be quicker than that. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere.
I mean, the Financial Times estimates that the welfare bill in total, and this does include pensions, of course, will be $666 billion by 2030.
And this is insane. It is. And this is why, we need radical reform, because, like you're saying, it's become a Ponzi scheme, because every year more and more people don't work, either because they retire or they're signed off sick.
Well, retirement's one of the big problems. I mean, the ageing population
that's right. And fewer
is a problem.
Work. No, young people not working is the problem.
A million.
Well, also there are fewer young people to actually pay the pensions of a growing elderly population.
And women not having babies. We need to encourage women to have babies.
But the trouble is, people still, I don't think, fully comprehend why children are an asset to the economy. And, you know, I write about this topic a lot. And every time I do write about, people comment, but children cost the state so much money. Why should I pay for other people's children to be educated? Well, the cost of education is tiny compared to the lifetime tax contributions of someone, which is usually about £1 million
if you do
over the course of their life. Well, that's just an average.
Yeah.
So of course we should be paying the costs of people to have children, because otherwise there are just no future.
You're in the wrong party, Miriam. I mean, that's exactly raising the two-child benefit cap is the right thing to do. The question is finding the money to do it.
Yeah, well, exactly. But we can't afford not to, and that's the problem that we're in, isn't it?
But you say that, Nigel. We spent $22 billion on carbon capture, $15.6 billion on social housing, $9.4 billion on public sector pay, $50 billion estimated on
public sector pay is the NHS, it's the police, it's the fire service.
On the NHS to its budget of $226 billion by the time this is out. There are choices that are being made.
And she did say in her speech, go back to the Chancellor, and of course we've seen major improvements in the NHS. 200.
We haven't.
Well, you work in it.
I work in it every day now. I say to patients, I'm really sorry, I think that your physiotherapy will take about a year to get. I'm really sorry, I have no idea how long that appointment for your hip will take. Every single day.
So you've seen no change?
No change at all.
I think this is the thing about high taxes, and we are not taxed particularly highly compared to comparable countries in Europe, for example. But I think the problem that people have is that they don't think their tax money is being spent wisely, Nigel. And when they see it being given to increase the salaries of public sector pay without any requirements on better productivity, or being thrown away on carbon taxes and things like that, that's why people object. Perhaps if we had a much more efficient state, people will actually be more relaxed about paying more tax.
But, I mean, you're complaining about certain taxes. I mean, presumably you don't like taxes spent on getting to net zero. So...
Well, you're right.
Well, it rather depends whether you think net zero is a major problem or not.
Well, Bill Gates doesn't think it's a problem anymore.
Personally, I do, and I think the problem is we're doing exactly the same thing with net zero that we did with the ageing population. 50 years ago, we knew we were going to have a problem now with pensions and with the NHS. Nobody did anything about it because it wasn't immediate. Because climate change, or the serious effect of climate change, is 25 years away, the view is, well, we don't have to do anything about it.
And the crisis in social care, Nigel, is here today. Nothing still from this government.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean,
Nothing.
Boris Johnson promised to sort out social care, and nothing happened.
They don't even promise it. They don't even talk about it.
No, well, I agree with you. I haven't heard anything there. But I mean, what is important is to get social care married up with the NHS, so they're one thing. At the moment, as far as I can see, the only thing married up is the name of the department.
We've got some breaking news. Tommy Robinson has been found not guilty at Westminster Magistrates Court of a terror offence. We'll bring you more on that as we get it.
Well, so he's been found not guilty.
Yeah.
The terror offence was that he didn't give his PIN number to his phone to the police.
I know.
Claiming he was a journalist.
In this police state that we now live in, where nothing is private anymore.
Extraordinary. Why would you give it away?
Isn't
it's meant to be private.
But is it not the digital equivalent to any search warrant in the past? I mean, the fact is, in the past, the police would have got a warrant to search his house and look for documents.
Yeah, but you have to go and get a warrant.
Indeed.
You have to go to court and get the warrant. This is just Coppers stopped him.
They didn't. They demanded it there and then on the spot, and he refused.
Which is different.
But surely, if the police think a crime is about to be committed, they ought to be able to do that, Nigel.
Well, they can do it, and obviously what happened in this case is he refused. In this case, the court has said he was right to refuse.
Yeah. So he's been found not guilty.
Yeah.
Justice served.
Yeah, fascinating.
Well, we will bring you any updates on that as we have them.
Yeah.
But should we go back? Let's go back to the Badenoch economic speech, because what's notable about all these economic speeches is we're still a long time out from an election.
I know.
And Farage said yesterday that he believed an election would be early because in 2 budgets' time, he predicts, which is very specific, the markets will no longer be willing to accept the Reeves government, the Starmer government, and their plans on spending, and that there will be some sort of fiscal collapse.
So that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think what that speech was all about this morning was soothing the markets and making them feel happy. I'm going to stick to my fiscal rule.
In consequence.
Has it?
Anyway, yeah.
Interesting. You know, just making the bond markets feel happy that, you know, she's staying within her fiscal rules. But we need to accept now that the bond yields are much higher than when Liz Truss crashed the economy. But nobody wants to talk about that.
Even though she had a go at Liz Truss.
Exactly.
By the way, I think sometimes they go on and on about Liz Truss. I think lots of people don't even know who Liz Truss is. I think people have forgotten.
Well, she's only around for 47 days, so we've probably forgotten her.
Now, up next, hundreds of small boat migrants are set to be housed in army barracks in Inverness, but guess what? It's been delayed because there are huge technical problems. Usual chaos.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're looking to escape the autumnal weather in the UK, well, there is also some unsettled weather through the Mediterranean. The focus in the east and the west at the moment, with Greece seeing some heavy showers, particularly towards the south, and even some longer spells of rain. Italy, though, faring well for sunny skies, likewise for the south of France. But we do have this wet and windy weather sweeping through Portugal on Wednesday, into Spain, and then clearing into eastern Spain during Thursday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
We're going to return to that breaking news. We're going to return to that because Tommy Robinson has been found not guilty at Westminster Magistrates Court of a terror offence. It was all to do with his PIN number and his phone, and would he hand it over to the police? There's a big crowd at Westminster Magistrates Court. Somewhere in that melee, we think, is our national reporter, Will Godley. This will be a big event because Tommy Robinson is always a big event. Here's Will Godley now. Will, over to you, Will.
Well, Andrew, yeah, there's a big crowd outside Westminster Magistrates Court today. Tommy Robinson addressing some of his supporters just behind me as he's talking to crowds after this verdict that he was found not guilty under this terrorism offence when he was stopped at the Channel Tunnel on the 28th of July last year. When the district judge read out that verdict, it was met with a huge applause and cheers from the public gallery, which was packed out with his supporters. But as the judge decided his verdict, it really came down to two questions that he had to satisfy to bring his decision to allow him to be satisfied that the stop under counter-terror rules and laws was indeed lawful. And there were two questions that he needed to answer. Firstly, whether the stop, what the purpose of the stop was, and secondly, whether it was involved with protected characteristics. Well, Tommy Robinson now moving towards us and his crowds coming towards us, as you might be able to see, lots of action happening outside the court here. But as the judge was deciding his verdict, he said he couldn't be sure that the stop wasn't lawful, and so he said the stop was unlawful under the Terrorism Act and therefore couldn't find him guilty of this stop. As people now coming towards us, big crowds of people outside here. Tommy Robinson walking away from the Westminster Magistrates Court after this verdict of not guilty. You can hear his supporters chanting as this verdict has just been announced. They are now walking away from the court, no doubt very pleased that he's been found not guilty after the judge ruled that the stop, the counter-terror stop, was unlawful at the Channel Tunnel on the 28th of July last year.
That's Will Godley outside Westminster Magistrates Court. Will, is he going to talk to GB News?
He's walked off somewhere with a big crowd of people. We can try and grab him, but so far he's gone. The crowd in the public gallery had a huge eruption of cheers when this verdict was read out. Of course, his legal fees, which have topped £100,000, have all been paid for by Elon Musk, of course, the owner of Twitter and Tesla. And so he, on Twitter, on X as it's now called, gave a big thank you to Elon Musk for paying those bills ahead of this verdict that lasted as the judge was reading his findings for less than an hour at Westminster Magistrates Court here, summing up the facts and giving his verdict. Tommy Robinson was appeared in a blue hoodie of his own merchandise with his logo on it. He seemed relaxed when the verdict was being read out and very, very pleased to be found not guilty under terrorism offences in this case.
All right, Will, that's Will Godley, our national reporter at Westminster Magistrates Court. Elon Musk is bankrolling his legal fees.
Very interesting.
Who'd have thought it? That's going to get him going again, attacking Britain as being not a home of free speech.
I know.
And a police state.
The idea that X is free speech, it's not. It's just a commercial vehicle.
Yeah. Well, more on that throughout the day. And what else have we got coming up? We'll be talking reaction to the Chancellor and her speech. And is it time for the BBC Director General Tim David to step down as they're found to have doctored a speech by Donald Trump? This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show.
We're giving you the chance to win your entire Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday, the 4th of November, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, are we expecting a nightmare before Christmas?
If we are to build the future of Britain together, we will all have to contribute to that effort. Each of us must do our bit for the security of our country and the brightness of its future.
So that's the Chancellor Rachel Reeves at Downing Street this morning, indicating she's ready to break her manifesto pledge and raise taxes in the budget this month, but she didn't say which ones. She also snubs GB News while taking questions from the media. Charming.
Well, it was a waffle bomb, according to Tory leader Kemi Badenoch, who described the Chancellor's speech as she was setting out her own vision for Britain in the last hour.
Chancellor's speech was one long waffle bomb. A laundry list of excuses. She blamed absolutely everybody else for her own choices, her own decisions, her own failure.
Rachel Reeves says each of us must do our bit. We are over 3 weeks from the budget. Speculation starts right now, but what looks certain is tax increases are on the horizon.
Well, some breaking news. Tommy Robinson has been found not guilty at Westminster Magistrates Court of a terror offence of failing to provide the police with the PIN number to his mobile phone.
Missed opportunities, it seems so. Police investigate whether the Huntingdon train stabbing suspect was involved in 3 knife-related incidents in the hours before the attack.
And a scandal at the BBC. The broadcaster doctored a Donald Trump speech by making him appear to encourage the Capitol Hill riots in 2021. Take a listen to this.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Andrew.
That is outrageous.
The BBC doctoring.
Yeah.
Incredible. And I wonder how Donald Trump is going to respond, because he does take note of what happens in Britain.
He does.
Whether or not he will issue a Twitter tirade against the BBC.
I'm sure. And I think we need a bigger reaction. I think we need a political reaction here. What does the Prime Minister think? This is the state-funded national broadcaster deliberately doctoring a speech by the President of the United States to give the distinct impression he was urging the storming of the Capitol Hill. It's an outrage.
And we've seen the leaked memos that were sent by the internal monitoring team at the BBC, asking senior BBC executives, why aren't you going to do anything about this? This is serious. This is not just a lack of balance or a mistake in judgment. This is a deliberate attempt to change the whole meaning of Donald Trump's speech. And obviously this was in Britain and not America, and nobody here in Britain can vote for Donald Trump. But had this happened in America, I mean, it could have changed the outcome of the election.
It really could. And remember, the licence fee, which many of you will still be paying, is going up, we think, next year to £181. Is it worth it?
Well, lots of younger people probably don't think so.
Your kids, when they were old enough, they won't pay for a licence fee.
I mean,
do they ever watch?
Not linear live TV, no. Although they get lots of clips of GB News.
Quite right too, especially of us, I hope.
Oh, well, I don't know. Patrick features very highly, I think, on a lot of their feeds.
In everybody's.
Absolutely. Well, we'd love to know what you think. Send your views and post your comments to
gbnews.com/you'll say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Just coming up to 5 minutes past 11. Rachel Reeves has refused to rule out tax rises, saying she'll make the necessary choices in her budget later this month. It comes amid warnings from the Resolution Foundation that tax rises are, they say, inevitable. The OBR is also expected to downgrade its productivity forecast, leaving a £20 billion gap in the public finances. The Prime Minister's spokesman says the government will take tough but fair decisions. Well, speaking from Downing Street earlier today, the Chancellor said her statement on the 26th of November will focus on fairness and opportunity, but she did admit the world, she says, has thrown challenges our way.
Mine will be a budget for growth, with fairness at its heart, and a budget that supports businesses to create jobs and to innovate. As I take my decisions, on both tax and spend, I will do what is necessary to protect families from high inflation and interest rates, to protect our public services from a return to austerity, and to ensure that the economy that we hand down to future generations is secure, with debt under control.
Well, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch hit back. She claims that Rachel Reeves' speech today proves Labour has given up on living within its means.
Chancellor's speech was one long waffle bomb. A laundry list of excuses. She blamed absolutely everybody else for her own choices, her own decisions, her own failures.
Tommy Robinson has, in the last few moments, been cleared of a terror offence after refusing to give police his phone PIN when he was stopped at the Channel Tunnel last year. The 42-year-old had been driving to Spain when police demanded access to his iPhone under anti-terror laws. The judge found him not guilty, though, ruling police acted unlawfully, detaining him under the Terrorism Act. Robinson's defence argued officers targeted him because of his political views, not because of any link to terrorism. The BBC has been accused of doctoring a Donald Trump speech to make it appear he encouraged the Capitol Hill riot. An internal memo seen by The Telegraph claims a Panorama episode broadcast just a week before the US election completely misled viewers. It showed Mr. Trump urging supporters to fight like hell when he actually said to march peacefully and patriotically.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Well, The Telegraph says it will publish more allegations of what it calls BBC bias in its Gaza coverage and censorship on transgender issues. The BBC has also told GB News it doesn't comment on leaked documents, but said it will take all feedback seriously. Just bring you some breaking news now from LNER. They have paid tribute to its staff member Samir Zitouni, who remains in hospital after Saturday's mass stabbings on a train in Cambridgeshire. In a statement, they said, in a moment of crisis, Sam did not hesitate as he stepped forward to protect those around him. Police are now investigating whether the suspect, 32-year-old Anthony Williams, charged on 11 counts of murder, is linked to 3 other knife incidents in Peterborough and London. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has praised police and first responders, while his Home Secretary has also commended the heroic actions of some staff, including the train's driver, Andrew Johnson, and the now-named Samir Zitouni. And government plans to move asylum seekers out of hotels and into military barracks could be derailed after one of the key sites was deemed unsafe to live in. Extensive work is now underway to remove asbestos from the Cameron barracks in Inverness, where 300 migrants were due to be relocated. The disused base is facing major renovation delays, with work not expected to start until January. That's despite ministers aiming to end the use of hotels by the end of this month. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you shortly. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Miriam.
Hello, welcome back. It's 11 minutes past 8. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So London North Eastern Railway has paid tribute to its hero staff member who saved lives on that train during that horrendous knife attack on Saturday night in Huntingdon. Let's get more with our national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie.
Well, 48-year-old Samir Zitouni, also known as Sam, has had his extraordinary bravery praised by LNER this morning. They've released details and a picture of him referring to his actions on the Saturday night aboard that service, the 625 from Doncaster to London.
Listening on the radio,
Cross.
the photographs just flashed up. A happy face.
A happy face, and his role at LNER is a customer experience host.
What's that?
That is someone who works in the onboard restaurant, and also would be, well, restaurant's a generous term, the cafe, or the trolley going down the carriages.
Yeah, yeah.
So
important part of their job.
I don't know if conductor is the right
No,
term.
they do. No, that's a different job.
And the train
he doesn't
guard
check
would be a
the
different
tickets.
term.
Yeah.
So as a customer experience host working with the food and drink and that on the onboard trolley, it's realistic that, you know, in this scenario, he might have been in one of the carriages when this horrendous attack was launched. And we've had so much information coming from LNER praising the bravery of their staff in this role. We've heard also about Andrew Johnson, the train driver, who his quick thinking, possibly inspired by his Royal Navy service as a former Chief Petty Officer, ensured that he engaged with the signallers and the control room with LNER to divert the train onto the slow tracks and get it to stop at Huntingdon. So we know that Samir Zitouni was injured trying to protect passengers on that service. We'd heard earlier over the weekend from Deputy Chief Constable of British Transport Police, Stuart Cundy, saying that CCTV, as they were reviewing that footage, as they prepared their case against the suspect, that his actions were nothing short of heroic and undoubtedly saved people's lives.
Great man. I hope he gets a medal.
And a full recovery.
A medal for gallantry.
A George medal would be...
Yeah, exactly. And we wish him well as he fights, because he's still very critically injured.
Well, thank you, Charlie. Moving on, the Chancellor has spoken at Downing Street this morning
and said... too long, by the way.
And said this in her strongest hint yet at tax rises.
If we are to build the future of Britain together, we will all have to contribute to that effort. Each of us must do our bit for the security of our country and the brightness of its future.
Well, we've been asking if this is about to become a nightmare before Christmas.
Let's go over to Downing Street, where our GBNews political editor Chris Hope is there, who tried and failed to get a question with the Chancellor. Chris, we've talked about...
Andrew,
to you.
Well, you say that, and you are right that I was on the front row of that press conference, hand in the air. I was looked at by Rachel Reeves and not called, but she's just left number 11 Downing Street 2 minutes ago. So I asked her the question on all of our viewers' minds, given the John Lewis advert came out today for Christmas. Should we cancel our Christmas turkey, Rachel Reeves? And she said no. So I can bring that to you. She's answering questions of GB News. Don't cancel the Christmas dinner, Andrew and Miriam.
Ms. Grinch, I'm not sure I agree with that.
Well, it seems difficult. I mean, I think you have to ask why on earth this speech happened. Essentially, it was the first third of a budget speech. She went through all of the reasons why this economy hasn't grown for 14 years, blaming the Tory party, COVID, everything else in between. And then rather than herself and choices she has taken since she became Chancellor in July last year. But the key quote, I think, was when she said this: if we're to build the future of Britain together, we will all have to contribute to that effort. Each of us must do our bit for the security of our country and the brightness of its future. We're all in it together, but what she really means is some are more in it than others, because she said she wouldn't cut back things like capital spending, she wouldn't cut back, she will go ahead with planning cuts, regulation cuts. She wants to deal with the cost of living, NHS waiting lists and national debt. She was very clear that what's going to happen is taxes will go up and it'll be the richest paying more than those others.
Now, Chris, the Chancellor, in fact, the whole government is hoping very much that they will be able to build these 1.5 million houses before the next election. That is what they're staking their growth prospects on. And yet that bill is still not through Parliament, and the Chancellor referred to that this morning. And there have been warnings from all sorts of experts that Labour will not be able to meet this target. If they don't, then the growth forecast will be rounded down yet again.
That's right, planning is vital. It is simply unbelievable that the NPPF reforms, the National Planning Policy Framework reforms, announced at the end of July 2024, that was the white paper for the bill we're seeing in the House of Lords now, has not yet cleared the House of Lords, and we're already about a quarter of the way through this government. It is difficult for them. I don't know why they can't get it through any faster, given there's broad cross-party support for getting more homes being built for the next generation, and it's puzzling and difficult, I think, for them to understand. But what we heard, though, from the Chancellor was she set the context. She talked about why we need more money, why this productivity issue has happened, and why it's been seen that way by the OBR. It's setting the scene for tax cuts. The problem we've got now, I think, for the government and for all of us really, is we've got over 3 weeks of speculation before we get to that moment, and that's what I think will be quite damaging for growth, for companies. There'll be lots of companies will be putting investment on ice until we know more from this Chancellor in just over 3 weeks' time.
All right, Chris, that's Chris Hope, who is our political editor. Let's talk now to the Labour MP for Hendon, David Pinto-Dushinsky. David, good morning, if we can use your first name.
Morning. Good to be with you.
Yeah. Can you explain what was the point of the Chancellor's speech this morning? Because I'm none the wiser.
Well, look, absolutely. Obviously, the budget will be in 3 weeks' time, but I think the Chancellor wanted to set out both the circumstances that we face, but also the principles that will undergird her budget, a budget fundamentally for fairness. And I think you heard 3 big points coming out. Firstly, she will act to protect the NHS, to protect our public services. Secondly, she'll act to protect families from the cost of living, and particularly from high interest rates and high inflation. And thirdly, she'll protect the public finances, because that long term and building that stability is how we get out of the cycle of national decline that the Conservatives left us in.
Now, you say the budget was all about fairness, but our economy has never been more fair. The rich have never paid a higher share of taxes than they do now. I mean, it's quite extraordinary in historical terms. And isn't this just socialism? Basically, she's offering people a more equal share of a shrinking pie, and what she should be offering is growth.
Well, and sorry, but to correct you, that's exactly what we are offering.
But how could you make this economy more fair without taxing the risks out of existence?
Sorry, you've literally asked me a question, so do let me actually answer. So when we took over, the growth rate over the previous 5 years had been the second lowest in the G7. Now it's in the first half of this year, the highest. As a result of the steps this government's taken, we've seen more growth in wages in the first 10 months of the government than we saw in the last 10 years of the previous government. The average household, average earner is more than £800 in real terms better off. So that's real growth. We've seen 5 interest rate cuts, 3 massive trade deals. These are making huge
But David, it isn't real growth, because it's GDP, not GDP per capita, which is shrinking, and that wage growth has been cancelled by inflation. I mean, food inflation, 37% just in the last 3 years.
I'm really sorry. That's just factually wrong. Families are better off in real terms. It's simply not true. We've also seen 120 billion of investment and business confidence at its highest in 9 years. So I hear the story, the picture you're trying to paint. It's simply not true. But look, what is true is that people feel stuck, and that's absolutely right. And that's why we are acting to break this cycle of national decline, to bring forward national renewal and bring the change that people want. But that, and those principles of fairness are what will underpin the budget coming up on the 26th of November.
David, she conceded that growth is nowhere near enough, and she blamed the pandemic, she blamed the Tories, she blamed Liz Truss, she blamed all sorts of things. She never once conceded that the huge increase in public spending she announced in her first budget, and the increase in national insurance, which I would argue was a direct breach of the manifesto. And hang on, David, and I suspect we're going to get another breach of the manifesto on November the 26th. She didn't concede that any of that had an impact on inflation, growth or productivity.
All right, so Andrew, as I say, under this government, the relative growth performance of this economy has improved dramatically. But let's be honest and paint the picture of where Britain is, right? Under the Conservatives, over
You're going on about the Tories again, David. Why don't we talk about the last 18 months of Labour?
Less than a year. I'm sorry, Andrew. We've been
what do you mean less than a
year and a half, trying to clean up over a decade of mess left by the Conservatives. Under them, we had the second slowest overall growth in the G7. We fell so far behind that equivalent countries, if we'd grown at the same rate as equivalent countries, we'd all be £8,000 a year better off. That is the legacy that we were left. We were also left with 2.6 trillion of national debt, and with the interest on that debt consuming £1 in 10 of the public finances. We were left on the path to decline. Now, what the Chancellor will set out on the 26th of this month is a blueprint for breaking out of that cycle of decline. And it's not going to be necessarily all easy answers. Of course, there are difficult choices to be made, but they will be the right ones. And this government will always put the right decisions ahead of political expediency. And that's exactly the kind of decision-making this country needs.
But one of the reasons for our decline is that fewer and fewer people are working. 5,000 people a day now signed off work with sickness benefits. Now, of course, some of that sickness will be genuine, people who genuinely can't work, but we've also seen an explosion in people signed off with minor mental health conditions that probably should be in work, and that has exploded under your government. If we're going to reverse the decline, surely there must need to be some deep-seated reform of how welfare works in this country.
Right, well, look, as the parliamentary private secretary to the Department of Work and Pensions, I'm afraid I can't talk about issues of work and pensions. But what I can do is tell you that this government's absolutely committed to investing to drive growth. And those are the measures you've seen over the previous 15 months since we've been in power, and it's made a real difference already. And to the point of the deficit, we're the only country in the G7 where the deficit is coming down by a full percentage point. So again, it's this government making a difference. But I think we also need to have an honest discussion with people. And Andrew, this comes back to your question. You talk as though you can just turn around a country, in 3 seconds flat, right? This requires an honest conversation. This country was left in a colossal mess by the last government, and you don't turn it around overnight. But we are making huge progress on the economy, on public services, and on getting more money into people's pockets. And it's that concept of fairness that will lie at the heart of the budget on the 26th of this month.
All right, David, we're going to have to let you go because we've got some breakers. That's David Pinter-Jaczynski, who is the Labour MP for Hendon. Well, we've got some breaking news, Miriam.
Yes, Dick Cheney has died at the age of 84. Sad news there. He was, of course, Vice President under George W. Bush.
He was,
some time ago.
Key figure in the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
So we'll bring you more on that as we get it. He was 84. He was once called the most powerful vice president in American history. He served as White House Chief of Staff, of course, for President Gerald Ford. He took over from Nixon when Nixon abdicated. He
was a representative for Wyoming at large congressional district from 1979 to 1989. Yeah. And as the 17th United States Secretary of Defense in the administration of President George H.W. Bush.
Yeah. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, incredible politician.
Now, we're going to be talking about the economy with Reem Ibrahim, who's head of media at the Institute of Economic Affairs. Reem, I think you probably take a slightly different view to David Pinter-Jaczynski, who appeared to be on direct feed from the Treasury. This is the Treasury line, and I will stick to it. He can talk as much as he likes about how living's done. People watching this programme, listening to this programme, don't feel it.
No, absolutely. And I think many people will ask questions why Rachel Reeves decided to have the speech at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Raising expectations.
Absolutely. It's raising expectations, well, or almost lowering expectations, because a lot of people were very aware of the fact that we're probably going to see tax rises again at the budget this year. The irony is, we saw at the election last year when the Labour Party won power in government, they said very clearly we were not going to raise taxes on working people, and that's specified income tax. And now, fast forward less than a year later, we are hearing that they are completely going back on those promises. The problem is, everybody was aware of the fact that the public finances were in a very, very dire state. That was not a secret. The idea that Rachel Reeves became Chancellor and suddenly, lo and behold, this black hole suddenly came about is absolutely untrue. It was there. We all knew public finances were in a bad situation. And yet, at the beginning of this year, every single time the government even attempted to slightly reduce public spending, it wasn't going to happen because politically, the party weren't able to do it. So we're in a very bad situation. But I would like to say, I mean, the economic malaise isn't over. Even when we increase public spending every single year, it does mean we're going to have to increase taxes. Unless we fundamentally get a grip about what the government does. That comes to the huge amount of public sector pensions. It also comes down to welfare. We're currently in a situation where 1 in 4 working age adults are not in work. And of course, thinking about what this looks like demographically, we cannot afford current levels of public spending. And we're going to see increases in taxes year after year after year until somebody finally decides to reduce the size of the state.
And we heard the MP David Pinter-Jaczynski there saying, oh, but we're the fastest growing economy in the G7 by GDP. But when I said to him, but GDP per capita is falling, he categorically denied it. But he's wrong. Our GDP per capita is falling. People are feeling worse off. That's not a myth.
One of the most interesting statistics I find is when you're looking at the US, and Mississippi is the poorest state in the United States, and yet has a higher GDP per capita than the UK. If the UK was to join the US as its 51st state, state, we'd be the poorest. That is the current state of the UK's finances.
Isn't that appalling?
And yet before the financial crash, we weren't quite on level pegging with the US, but we weren't far behind.
Well, we were actually sort of were on par with the United States. Now we're sort of completely far behind. And I think what's really interesting about this is it isn't just sort of these external factors. I mean, the government are going to try and tell people, you know, we had no idea how bad things were going to be. These are all due to external global factors, Trump's tariffs or whatever it is. No, fundamentally, the current economic malaise is as a result of the government's own policy.
Yes.
It's their own actions.
And just finally, she seems to be saying as well, they've only just discovered that it's much worse than they thought, that productivity is much worse than they thought. Why would they only just have discovered this? They just found a textbook or something. They just found a secret paper. I mean, they've been in power for nearly 18 months. They've known how bad it is for ages. The fact is it's a lot worse is because of the decisions she's taken.
Absolutely, but also the state of public finances is public information. You know, anybody, even before when the Conservatives were in power, could have looked at the ONS website and seen exactly how bad things were. The reason why I think it's really important to make this point, it isn't just going to be bad this year. It is going to be bad next year and the year after, until a conversation about public spending being radically reduced is going to happen. And this is partly because not only are we looking at the current levels of public spending, but that is going to increase significantly because of the government's liabilities. Public sector pensions, I think, is one of the largest. Effectively, a lot of this money has been siphoned off to spend on public sector pensions, civil servants, teachers, whoever, who have not had that money actually saved. So with a private pension, you know, your money goes away into an investment pot, that money is actually invested and it physically exists. With public sector pensions, that money doesn't exist.
Right.
So every single year we are going to have to increase taxes until we finally look at what this looks like. And we all understand the Laffer curve. There is diminishing returns here, right? We can increase taxes, but at some point people just stop doing things in the economy.
All right.
Indeed. Well, plenty to think about there. Really,
Ibrahim from the Institute of Economic Affairs. Now, never too early to think about the festive season. How would you like to have Christmas on us?
Yep, that's right. £40,000 in tax-free cash is up for grabs to have your Christmas of your dreams. £1,000 to spend on a luxurious Christmas lunch and a Christmas-themed GB News goodie bag for under the tree.
Are you in it? The goodie bag?
Not as far as I know. And the best news, you'll be getting it all in time for the big day. Here are the details you need.
We're giving you the chance to win your entire Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash so you can have a brilliant new year. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, the decorations, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. And the best news? You'll get it all in time for the big day. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We're not doing it.
Welcome back. It's 11:28 and we're now joined by our panel, GP and medical writer Dr Renee Honderkamp and senior GB News political commentator Nigel Nelson in the studio.
The political fallout continues from the Chancellor.
Well, it does.
He said a very short reply to Chris Hope. Did you hear? He said, do we need to cancel our Christmas turkey chant? She said, no. That's it. She's the Christmas Grinch.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that she was softening us up for the budget that's to come. The question, obviously, is not whether there'll be tax rises, but which ones. So, I mean, Mel Strider suggested that she keeps floating the idea of income tax rises on the basis that she won't actually do it and we'll all breathe a sigh of relief. Well, we'll see. The income tax rise that that seems to be planned is probably the least worst option. 2p on income tax, a 2p reduction in national insurance. So
Can you say that with a straight face?
she can then argue she's not hitting working people, but she'll hit pensioners, landlords, and raise $6 billion because they'll have to pay national insurance.
I mean, that is a fair point, isn't it, Renee? That if she did that, increase basic rate by 2p and decrease national insurance by 2p, the working people that you were talking about earlier, the group that are shrinking, would actually not see any change in their tax bill.
Yeah, I know, but look, if we unpick what Nigel just said, suddenly landlords have become this demonised group of people. What we're not understanding, or certainly our government don't seem to be, is this long-term, joined-up thinking that when you keep demonising one particular group, on this occasion it's landlords, they actually leave the market. When they leave the market, the housing situation becomes even worse for the young people that they say they're going to protect and get onto the housing ladder in one way or another. You can't keep hammering the people who are seen to be the big demons because they've actually got off their backsides and set up a business, and then hope that there'll still be some trickle down to the people who need to, you know, see the benefits of that market.
It's also a flipping driving a coach and horses through the manifesto again.
Yes.
Well, that's, I mean, there could be some short-term pain for that. Well, maybe extreme pain for that. Well, it depends, doesn't it? Because what you can do, of course, if you do income tax, is you can always drop it before the next election. I know it sounds all terribly cynical. Well, if you raise it by 2p, you then reduce it by 2p as the election approaches. So it gives you a bit more leeway. But Renee's point there, no one likes tax rises. Whoever gets hit is going to object to it, and there's always a fallout from a tax rise. And the problem that Rachel Reeves had was to block out the main taxes for the election and make manifesto promises she might not be able to keep. And then, as you say, hit specific groups who understandably come back and say, this is unfair.
But no, the problem that Rachel Reeves and et al. Have is they're not prepared to look at what Reem just so eloquently said, that unless they actually slash this massive civil service in half, they will just have to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. Because every time they employ a new civil
jobs are going in the civil service.
Until they're not, Nigel.
10,000.
So let's talk about the...
How many?
Yeah.
Well, it's of 500,000. I appreciate it's a lot.
Wes Streeting made this wonderful announcement that he was getting rid of NHS England. It was a wonderful announcement. Yeah. It's not happening. You know why? Because when they looked at the redundancy bill, everybody choked on their tea and lattes in Downing Street, and those people are just going to be moved sideways into other civil service jobs in the Department of Health and Social Security.
Do you know, Renee, I predicted that on this premise. It will never happen. The civil servants will never lose their jobs.
But it should happen.
It will save no money.
No. Nigel, I think what's so frustrating about this is that if we were at war or had some other national emergency, I think people would be quite willing to understand that taxes are going to have to rise, that we've got something to pay for. But we're paying for the mistakes of this and previous governments in raising our debt beyond what we can possibly afford to service, and we're not going to get anything for that money. It's just going to pay off interest and debt that we're never going to see the fruit.
But we have had things in the past. I mean, COVID, for example, we spent £400 billion on COVID.
That the Labour government wanted longer, harder lockdowns for, and they would have
hang on,
spent
but I'm just talking about the $400 billion that we actually spent on COVID. That has to be paid back. So that was an emergency. It was almost like a wartime situation.
OK, we've got to leave it there, you two, because Dick Cheney, who served as Vice President under George W. Bush from 2001 to 2009, has died at the age of 84. Let's get some immediate reaction from the Chairman of Republican Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. Greg, he was a significant Vice President.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He is probably going to be, best known for his stint as Vice President. And unfortunately for his legacy, I think he'll be best known for, the Iraq War specifically, but also Afghanistan. And so, look, I think he'll have a mixed legacy, but I do think he was a very, very important part of the defense establishment for generations. It wasn't just while Vice President. He was Defense Secretary, I believe, on more than one occasion. And so, he goes back to the, really to the Nixon days. So he's a really significant figure in American politics, and especially around defense and security, not just the Iraq War and not just his two terms as Vice President.
Now, has he been active in US politics recently, or has he taken a quiet retirement?
I think he's been quiet. I think his daughter, Liz Cheney, has gotten much more attention, and it's also going to be an interesting part of his legacy because she really highlighted the divide in the Republican Party, not just in the country, but she was she was a congressperson from Wyoming, where he was also a congressman from Wyoming way back when, and she was the lone congressperson from that state because it's such a low population. They only have one congressional seat. But she really, in my view, blew herself up by going completely Trump derangement syndrome and led the January 6th committee. And I think that's going to be, like it or not, or fair or not, it's going to be part of Dick Cheney's legacy as well.
Well, Greg Svensson, thank you so much for bringing us that information about Dick Cheney, who has died aged 84.
More significant vice president than Kamala Harris, I would argue.
That's probably true. Who? Forgotten who that was. Yeah.
Quite.
Well, rumours are she might run again.
Again to be president. The Republicans.
I hope she does.
Yeah. God, she was hopeless.
Well, let's stick with the US because up next, Bev Turner is going to tell us all about the man who calls himself a pain in the backside of Donald Trump. Find out who she's talking about on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a very mild but once again a cloudy and breezy day today for many places. Heavy rain is likely in some areas, especially at first northern England, southern Scotland, North Wales, but then by the afternoon the emphasis for the heaviest rain shifts towards the southwest. So southwest England, much of South Wales seeing some persistent wet weather setting in around lunchtime and continuing for the rest of the day, overnight and into the start of tomorrow. In some places the risk of more than 50 millimetres of rain falling, with the most rain falling over hills. East Anglia, the southeast, as well as northern Scotland and Northern Ireland, mostly avoiding the wet weather that will affect many other areas, and we'll actually see some clear spells for central and parts of northeast Scotland, although this area of showery rain will continue to affect the northwest. Northern Ireland, clear spells as we end the day here with lighter winds, a gap between systems. Southern Scotland staying damp, likewise for northern England, but not as wet as it has been during the last 24 hours. Wales, the wettest place as we go into the rush hour. I'm sure some tricky conditions for the evening commute. And then that pulse of heavier rain moves through the Midlands into northern England, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland overnight, with further pulses of wet weather pushing up across many western parts of the UK. Meanwhile, clear spells remain across East Anglia, the southeast, and northern Scotland. Northern Scotland, relatively cool overnight, but very mild elsewhere, with this strong southwesterly breeze continuing, lively gusts around the southwest coast and upland areas, with the wettest weather through Wednesday pushing north into much of Scotland, northern England, and remaining damp across western parts. Clear spells to the southeast, very mild, and here's how it looks as we begin bonfire night.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 22 minutes to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, this is an interesting election in New York because the city is going to the polls today for their mayoral election. Could we send Keir Starmer? Could we send Sadiq Khan over there? Get him as mayor of New York.
Well,
get
he's
him out
such
of
an
London.
experienced mayor. I'm sure he'll be able to give them some good tips on how to run the city. Well, Bev Turner, our very own Bev Turner, has the latest for us on one of the candidates.
Today in the United States of America, all eyes are on New York City, where voters are heading to the polls to decide who will replace the independent mayor, Eric Adams. The frontrunner is 34-year-old Muslim Democrat named Zoran Mamdani, and he describes himself as Donald Trump's worst nightmare. So let me take you through some of this candidate's most woke and possibly divisive policies. First of all, he wants to splash out $65 million of taxpayer cash on a transgender treatment facility, which would offer surgeries for minors. And if that wasn't enough, he's proposing to create his own office of LGBTQIA+ affairs to push it all through, in a move that he says is about protecting gender-affirming care. Then there's his attitudes towards the police. Old social media posts show Mr. Mamdani calling the New York Police Department wicked and corrupt, and even calling for it to be dismantled. He's since rode back on that position and he's dialed down the rhetoric. But he's offering what can only be described as a shopping list of handouts: free bus passes, no-cost childcare, and city-run grocery stores. And of course, the question is, who exactly will be footing the bill for all of that? As in the UK, voters are feeling the cost of living pressure, so freebies are very attractive. And finally, he wants to extend the youthful offender status to include people up to the age of 26, so young lawbreakers will be spared from the criminal justice system. But what impact would this have on law and order? Well, depending on how the vote goes tonight, New York could be on the brink of a very different future. And a new thorn in the backside of Donald Trump could emerge.
Well, don't forget you can catch Bev tonight on The Late Show Live right here on GB News at midnight. And I think an interesting reminder that the culture war is not over in the United States. I know we talk a lot about Trump and the Republicans.
Because it looks like he's going to win and win pretty big.
The war on woke is definitely not over in New York.
No, it'll be. You can just see it setting up a fantastic clash between the White House and the New York mayor.
Yes, I wonder what Trump will do.
Trump will be looking forward to it. He'll be relishing it.
He probably will. Well, we're joined now by a GB News regular, the former Labour advisor, Matthew Torbett, who was out there in New York for the election. Good morning, Matthew. What do you think of Bev's summary there of the policies of this frontrunner, who's a very left-wing candidate?
I think it misses why this candidate is so popular. I think the mainstream policies he's looking at is, there's this idea there's a shopping list of giveaways. I think essentially he wants to build 5 grocery stores that will make things affordable for the people of New York. He wants to freeze rent on the 2 million, sort of, as we would call it, social housing flats and apartments in New York. And he's going to tax the top 1% by an extra 2% to fund a lot of that. I think to also make buses free and accessible, as well as having their own designated lanes, is hardly communist or utterly radical, I would say.
How would he pay for it? Can it all be paid for, Matthew, by that tax on the top 2% of earners?
No, I think the top 2% of earners' tax would bring in about $5 billion. There will also be quite a hefty increase in corporation taxes if he feels that corporations have got away with a low tax for far too long, whilst in New York, and that'll bring in another $4 billion. So you've got $9 billion coming in there. That's on top of the $122 billion that he'll oversee anyway from the federal funding, which Donald Trump, I believe, is threatening to withhold, which will make for an interesting battle, really, after tonight, I would imagine.
Trump's looking forward to the battle, Matthew, isn't he?
I think so, but I think you have to ask yourself, he says, I'm not going to hand over this money because it'll be spent badly. Well, I think there's an argument to be that lots of money all over the world is spent very badly when leaders are given it. I think he's quite worried that if he gives them money, this may work. And I think that's the fear for lots of people in the Republican Party. I think There's a lot of an idea that populism and this sort of thing, where you just offer things and you become popular. I think actually it's a failure of candidates that are constantly put up and voters are asked to just accept them and go, OK, this is the fodder that we've got. And we have the same in the UK as well. I am yet to see, and this may sound a little bit overdramatic, I don't think it is, I have not seen a communicator in world politics, let alone US politics, like this since Barack Obama. He is an incredibly skilled operator, and I'm more than happy to predict this man will get over 50% tonight, and I think get more votes than any other New York mayoral candidate. I think he's on for 1 million votes.
I mean, Matthew, he's clearly a very charismatic, interesting, energetic candidate. But some of these policies have been tried before with disastrous results. I mean, price fixing, one of them. But legalising recreational drugs, wherever that's been tried across the whole world, it has led to massive increases in crime and violence, no-go areas in the city, a huge problem for the criminal justice system. I mean, it's not going to work, however charismatically he dresses it up.
I think marijuana is already legal in the state of New York. I think if you look at others, I would have my own concerns. You know, I'm not somebody that agrees with everything every politician does, even if I think they are good. I think what he tends to be talking about more is the fact that there has to be greater emphasis on prevention. I know that's been painted as woke, and the idea that social services will visit problem children before they end up in juvie or whatever else, or prisons over here. I think there's a massive thing to be said about prevention.
But he wants to release people with drug convictions from prison.
Well, yeah, you have to ask yourself what you make of drug convictions. If you are somebody that has been caught taking drugs and having possession of drugs rather than possession to supply, I think there's an argument to potentially talk about the fact that addiction is very much an illness and something that should be treated as such. I think if you're talking about large-level drug dealers, that's a different conversation altogether. But the same way, you know, people turn to certain things in life, I think there's something to be said of, can we prevent these people in the first place, and should they be in prison for being addicted to something?
Can I just ask you, Matthew, finally, you've gone to New York to campaign for this candidate who is charismatic and you obviously have a great belief in. Would you campaign so enthusiastically as a great Labour Party man yourself for Sir Keir Starmer?
We'll have to wait and see if he's leader at the next election, but ultimately I think any Labour government is better than a Reform or Conservative government, Andrew. Let's wait and see.
You don't seem convinced that he will be Labour leader at the next election.
No, I think May will be a very much a tipping point, and actually to add to the Americanisms, that, and I've said before, will be a Joe Biden-like conversation for Keir, whether he wants to stay and us potentially lose, or whether we can look elsewhere.
Fascinating.
Matthew Torbett, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy your trip to New York.
And thank you for staying up so late, because that's very kind of you.
And maybe you can do it again tomorrow when the result's in.
Yeah. And enjoy
more than happy to.
Definitely. All right, Matthew, great to talk to you. Now up next, a rise to David Beckham. He's getting officially knighted this morning. I bet the King does it.
I bet this one's an important one.
Him or Princess Anne. Oh, it is the King. There we are.
There we go. It's happened. We'll have some pictures and commentary on that. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're looking to escape the autumnal weather in the UK, well, there is also some unsettled weather through the Mediterranean. The focus in the east and the west at the moment, with Greece seeing some heavy showers, particularly towards the south, and even some longer spells of rain. Italy, though, faring well for sunny skies, likewise for the south of France. But we do have this wet and windy weather sweeping through Portugal on Wednesday, into Spain, and then clearing into eastern Spain during Thursday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here to GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. It's 9 minutes to 12. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom.
David Beckham is now officially Sir David Beckham. He's been knighted by the King during an investiture ceremony at Windsor Castle today.
The honour recognises services to sport and charity, and I think he deserves it. He was amazing at those free kicks, wasn't he? He scored a lot of goals for England.
You asked me as if I have a clue. I have.
Come on, Andrew. I'm sure you know.
I know he played for Manchester United. I know he played for England, but I don't know.
Can you explain the offside rule?
I can't know. And so, set piece, I mean, he was good at free kicks.
He was. He was good at free kicks.
Was he good at penalties?
I don't know if he's a midfielder. He probably took some in the actual penalty shoot.
Let's talk to
someone who knows about
this.
it.
Our entertainment editor, Alex Davis. Alex, he did lobby pretty hard for this night.
He lobbied incredibly hard for this, but a lot of people lobbied on his behalf as well. He's been, you mentioned his free kicks. There was the film in 2002, Bend It Like Beckham. He's been one of England's biggest football names for decades. And he has got this this knighthood for his services to the sport itself, but also for his charity work. He's been an ambassador for UNICEF for a long time, and just a couple of years ago he started working with the King's Foundation with King Charles as director. Yeah, what timing?
Yes.
What timing?
Very rarely is he not at a Buckingham Palace reception.
So there he is there with King Charles, like you said today in the at the Berkshire ceremony. He was accompanied by Lady Victoria, we must now call her Lady Victoria Beckham, and his parents as well. And just a nice little tidbit of information as well. He's wearing a Victoria Beckham suit. You know, she's a very
That's very clever. Well, that's good to promote the brand.
Well,
the brand Beckham is very, very successful, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, she's just released her very own Netflix series as well, which is all about the brand and how she transitioned from pop star, not taken seriously,
who couldn't sing.
Well, matter of opinion.
She was the Spice Girl who couldn't sing, apparently.
Not such an innocent girl is a bit of a banger. Let's not forget. But today is all about Sir David. And like I said, Manchester United, England captain, Real Madrid, went to LA. He basically revolutionised soccer in the States. I know that's not what he got the knighthood for, but just talking about his star power as a global brand.
It's just coming back to me. He did have a fall from grace when he got sent off in an England match.
He got sent off against Argentina, yes, famously. I think in the '98 World Cup, and there was horrible things and effigies and whatnot.
So he came back well on that.
He's done incredibly well to restore his image.
Remember, if you see him, to call him Sir Dave.
Sir Dave and Lady Vic. Well, coming up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you. Well done. That was very nice.
Great.
Yes, but actually this morning, pretty much everyone but myself for the best footwear in
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another dull and damp day for many of us. Wet in places as well, particularly western parts of the country. But with moisture-laden southwesterly winds, it's also going to be a mild one. Now, it won't be raining everywhere through the day. Parts of northern Scotland and Northern Ireland will see some brighter spells in between showers. The showers most frequent in the far northwest. But across much of England and Wales, it's very rainy, with the wettest weather increasingly towards South Wales and the southwest of England. Rain warning in force. It'll be breezy here as well, but at the same time it's going to be mild, 15 or 16 Celsius in the south, 13, 14 further north. The wet weather just continues into the evening rush hour across South Wales, southwest England. There'll also be spells of rain further north. This bout of wet weather affecting much of northwest Scotland, extending into parts of Northern Ireland as an area of showers. Likewise, southern Scotland seeing some rain, although the central belt at times avoiding the wetter weather. Northern England, drier for a few hours before this area of rain across Wales, the south and southwest starts to